All right. Mm.
It was an exciting day at the Corner Cafe in downtown Buffalo as we watched Germany beat Argentina in the World Cup final.
I mean,
I know.
yeah, I know. I was okay. I mean, I know I have nothing against any players on Germany. I was pulling for Argentina, but apparently Messi is the Joe Thornton of soccer. And,
Ooh, ouch.
just kidding.
Ouch.
That's
Well,
what.
I made a I made a Rafi Torres reference on Twitter yesterday after the one guy went high and hit the player in the head. The one German guy got conked on his head about 5 minutes into the match, and I was like, somebody said stop making hockey references. I'm like, no, I'm a hockey writer. What the hell do you want me to do?
Yeah, well, yeah. If you were yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you should do.
Okay, X. So
Okay, so tell us your story.
on
Hello, chat room, by the way.
on Saturday, I go to the grocery store and I'm in the organics, picking up my organic raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, and there's a guy that walks over to me and he goes, "Josh," and I'm like, yeah, Josh Rimmer, and I'm like, yeah. Oh, I love you on the Buzzcast.
Excellent.
And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, I watch every day. I'm like,
there you
cool,
go.
thanks for watching.
There you go. Now, Mike,
I'm getting noticed at supermarkets touching melons. I mean, strawberries and raspberries.
Well, I'm hoping to be touching melons tonight. Oh, no, never mind. Backstage at the concert. No, just kidding.
When's the concert?
Tonight.
Tonight. That's right. I wanted to ask again, but I asked you before. We got tickets. We're going.
You are going
next Thursday. Yeah, we got tickets.
Cool. Yeah.
It's Sarah McLachlan.
Yes, and an amazingly cool thing. I wish more performers and bands would do this. She has for her fans something set up on her website where if you apply and tell a little story, she will invite you into like a couple couches on stage and let you sit there for a half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, just imagine, and it doesn't have to be Sarah McLachlan, it could be anybody, but imagine if you're, somebody you like and somebody you like for a long time, and you get to sit on stage with them, and that would just be cool.
So much sense.
Isn't she?
Sorry, that?
Sarah McLachlan, isn't she with a hockey player?
She's dating Jeff Courtnall.
She's with...
Oh, okay, that's right. With Jeff Courtnall.
We don't know if she's with him right now, but she is with him, yes.
Yes, until she dumps him for me, and then...
That's right.
Yes.
Until she recognizes you tonight. Mike, I've seen you on the Buzzcast.
On the Buzzcast.
6 degrees of separation when I was a kid, and my father did the play-by-play for the Washington Capitals. I must have been 7 or 8 years old, and I used to go to the games, and I would go early with my dad, and I would always sit down in the lower stands while he was in the locker room, and Jeff Courtnall comes out, and I knew Jeff pretty well, and he was my favorite player, and he comes over with his hockey stick, and he goes, "Hey Josh, I need some goals tonight." And I always came to the game some reason with my Capitals rabbit's feet. So he goes, "Hey Josh, put some goals in my stick, please." I'm like, okay, and I rubbed his stick. He had 4 goals that night.
Fantastic. Wow.
So every game until he was traded. No what?
Nothing.
That's fantastic.
Every game until he got basically left Washington because that whole limousine incident which happened, which we won't go into. He'd come downstairs and have me rub rabbit's feet on his hockey blade. So
better than the way you said it before. Well said.
Yeah. Yes. I was wondering if I was the only one who heard that, but I just
not to change the subject. No, that's a
you guys are bad. You guys
luck.
are bad. And then a funny thing.
This way players
Florida
are.
Panthers,
I've been there.
Funny thing is, a few years later, I think I was 16 or 17 in Florida, and Dad was doing the play-by-play at the Panthers. And my dad told the story to Tommy Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald hadn't scored a goal, I think, in like 35 games. He comes over to me and goes, "Your dad told me about what you did for Courtnall." I'm like, "Yeah, I laughed about it." He's like, "Here, touch my stick." He scored that game.
Nice. See, there you go.
Well, all I know is that there's a friend in the Toronto media who's as big a Sarah McLachlan fan as I am, and I told him that she was dating Jeff Courtnall, and he said, well, and they were playing the Marlies were playing Hamilton at that point, and on Hamilton is Jeff Courtnall's son Justin. And he said, "I dare you to go into the Hamilton locker room and ask him about his dad dating Sarah McLachlan." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" There's a completely unprofessional thing to do.
How to get yourself kicked out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going to do that. Come on. No.
That's so funny. My closest story I have to that, I don't think I've ever shared this story before, and then we'll start. We'll talk about Letang. I promise. We'll talk about all this other fun stuff too. But my closest story, when I was a kid, my sister, whose daughter Bree watches the podcast all the time. Hey Bree, what's up? There is a woman who watches the podcast. I'm related to her, but she's a woman and she watches the podcast. Anyway, my sister was friends with Ryan Sittler. You know, Ryan Sittler, because Daryl Sittler was playing for the Flyers at the time, and Ryan was in school with my sister, and they were the same age. And so my friends and I, one of my friends, Dave Katz, and I we would always go to the games, and we usually go to Dave's seats or our seats. We were like 3 rows from the top, and Dave was 3 rows from the ice. It was like, whose seats we had. Hopefully we have Dave's seats tonight. So we would go, and we couldn't get a ride back one night. And my parents were like, "Oh, we can't go," but we arranged it so that Daryl will bring you home from me. So Daryl Sittler drove Dave and I home from the game, and it just happened to be a game where he scored 2 goals in that game too. And and he and his lovely wife Wendy took us home. It was hilarious. So that was fun. And so I told him after the game, I'm like, if you ever need to score goals again, take us home again. Well, you'll score then. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I might actually take you up on that one." So it was good stuff. Daryl's fun. It was nice. And then later I saw Ryan Sittler play for the Nashville Knights of the ECHL. And Daryl, because Daryl was drafted, remember, by the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, he was.
No, I'm not Daryl, but Ryan. Ryan was
drafted by Philadelphia.
Ryan was drafted by Philadelphia, right? And then the first round never really amounted to much, unfortunately. He got injured a lot. He was a good player as a kid. I used to watch him play all the time as a kid. Got injured a lot, and then ended up. I ended up seeing him play and dominate actually at the ECHL level when I was in Nashville for 4 months in the 90s. So I saw him play for the Nashville Knights. This is before the Predators existed. The Nashville Knights was their final season.
And Daryl Sittler actually lives in the Buffalo area, one of the suburbs of Buffalo. I mean, I think for like a lot of NHL players who are from Southern Ontario, they live in Western New York because of the tax difference. Yeah. And it's strange because New York is not exactly Florida when it comes to tax.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
But it's a lot better than Ontario with the GST and all the other STs.
Right.
So.
I got something to show you guys before the show. We'll start the show in 2 minutes here. This is called the pre-show if you're just joining us for the first time.
And I said STs, not STDs. Sorry.
Lord. Hold on.
That's how far I've come, guys.
Wow. And that was what, the Winter Classic?
That was March.
Wow. Well, I would
4 months ago.
I would show you a picture of my weight loss, but I don't take pictures. Okay.
Motivation, Mike. You use it as motivation.
I know. I have motivation. It has nothing to do with pictures of me.
Oh yeah. See,
we need a girl on this show quickly.
Yes, yes. It's
Let me
getting
see.
it's,
Hold on. Wow.
it's getting to be the man show.
Josh, you look like a roadie for like for a roadie for Blues Traveler.
Yeah.
It's not John Popper, is it?
Oh.
All right,
Who?
so this is so like I said, I got to see Ryan Sittler play in the final year of the Nashville Knights' existence. Now, the Nashville Knights were the ECHL affiliate of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And if you remember, the Tampa Bay Lightning, there was another Knights. They want to say the Atlanta Knights was the AHL team. I think this is before the Thrashers were in Atlanta. So Atlanta Knights, and then below that was, and this was Ryan Sittler's final year too. So I went down there, and I was at the final game ever for the Nashville Knights, and this is the last pro team that played before the Predators would come in like 5 years later. And I got this when I was there at that game. I got this. This is the Nashville. Oops, it's like this.
Wow.
Nashville Knights jersey. So it's like a game-worn jersey from.
Wow, the emblem looks like a skinny Michelin man.
Yeah, it's like yeah, right. It's the final game ever. So I'm gonna do this backwards. Sorry.
There you go.
Final game ever of the Nashville Knights. This would be Ryan Sittler's jersey.
Cool.
So yeah, one of my pride and my and guys who play in my fantasy hockey league that I played in for like 25 years until about 3 years ago know that my team in the fantasy hockey league was always called the Nashville Knights.
Nashville Knights.
We got killed every year because I was a horrible fantasy hockey player. Go figure. All right, let's get this show going here. Show and tell's over today.
Monday, July 14th.
Yes, thank you. And Kevin Becker in the he's a Buffalo fan trapped in Kansas City, is always very good with the dates too, and I appreciate that, Kevin, because I am not. Even though you just said to me, now see, my problem is like things don't always stop. Like they go in one ear, they don't always stop in the middle of my head. They continue through sometimes. So the more people say Monday, July 14th, the better. All right. Let me get one thing together here. I got one note I just had to pull up here. This week, by the way, a movie I'm so psyched to see is coming out. Is Wish I Was Here. The follow-up to Garden State is coming out on Friday.
Yep, I saw the preview.
Looks good, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to say anything, no spoilers. I saw the beginning of season 2 of House of Cards.
Oh my gosh, you texted me this. Yeah,
wow.
I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you yesterday. It was crazy with all the craziness.
No,
that's so funny. The beginning of season 2 of House of Cards. Yeah, wasn't
So
that
did I haven't even watched that show.
I'm not saying anything, Josh. I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to reveal.
I'm doing Game of Thrones right now.
Oh, you went for Game of Thrones, despite all of us. You really don't value our opinion at all, Josh, do you?
No, everyone told me to do Game of Thrones, then House of Cards, then Mad Men. I'm like, all right.
Mike or I, you know, the guys you do a show with every single day. Told you. Anyway.
Jeez. But no, yeah. I had
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm always good at devising like plot situations, and I didn't see that one coming.
No, my wife and I were watching that movie. It was like 11 o'clock at night. We're like, we got to watch season 2, the first, because we just finished the first season. We're like, we got to stay up. So we watched that. We put that on. We're like, did we just see? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Still gives me the shivers. All right. That show just gets weirder and weirder. Trust me. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Monday, July 14th. Hey, Hockey World! Welcome back. It's Monday, July 14th, 2014.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
Thanks for joining us, Josh. I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockeybuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com, home of all sorts of things. If you're watching the pre-show, you got to see the Nashville Knights game-worn jersey, which I showed. You got to see a picture of Josh when he was a roadie for Blues Travelers. So you can check all those things out later. But yeah, we got rumors to talk about. We got all kinds of things to talk about. It's crazy. I mean, it's the 14th of July. And listen, to talk to people in the chat room, and there's a lot of you guys today. I really appreciate you guys joining us. You're the reason we keep doing this. That and the money. I'm just kidding. You're the reason. So we were just talking about like how long do we want to keep doing the 5-day a week thing, through the summer, because everybody else, Wisniewski and Marek, those bonehead losers, decided to give up their show already. They're on vacation. They're probably outside right now with their friends.
Yeah, we have
fun.
no friends.
No, we're not. We're doing, it's summer. Yeah. So, and then of course, even like Hockey Night in Canada, who doesn't have any money at all, decides their show will go on hiatus for the summer, but we still keep doing shows and paying for it and making it work, and we appreciate that because we think that you guys want to talk about hockey at least 1 hour a day in the summer.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do. So if you guys like it, we really appreciate it, and soon we'll hit you up for money. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I'm just kidding. You'll never have to pay for the show. You might choose to, but you'll never have to. All right. So let's talk rumors, because this weekend, Josh, Chris Letang, the defensive stalwart, the Penguins call Chris Letang, suddenly rumor comes out that he's been asked by Rutherford, who we like to call the fixer, to give him like a list of teams he could be possibly traded to. This is sort of it's kind of a little shocking, Josh.
Well, here's the thing, guys, and I mentioned this during the playoffs, and I think even after the playoffs. I don't think anyone's going to take Chris Letang. The guy, I mean, I'm sorry, Chris, but, like the guy had a stroke a couple months ago. I'm shocked that he even came back to play. I actually didn't like that he came back to play. I think they should have given him some time off. I mean, Chris Letang is never going to be the same after having that. I mean, obviously, he needs to be monitored constantly to make sure it doesn't happen again. I don't see the Penguins getting much for him, to be honest with you. I don't know a whole lot of teams that'd be interested in him. Even before the stroke, the guy couldn't stay healthy the last couple of years. Lots of nagging knee, shoulder, back injuries. He's had a hard time staying healthy. I don't see anyone really willing to take on that contract. I don't know. I mean, stranger things have happened, but to me, I think the guy should have taken some time off before coming back. I worry about the health of Chris Letang.
No, I do too, but I totally disagree with you in terms of I think I mean, I agree that Chris Letang is horrible in his own zone and has been even before the stroke. And yeah, his health has definitely got to be an issue. And he probably did come back too soon and all that stuff. But there's no reason. I mean, he's in shape. He's a guy's in shape, and we've seen guys have heart issues before and go on to have really good careers. And there's no reason to think that he's not. Like if I had a stroke, I would probably not be able to do a podcast. So I mean, but these guys are. But I think that Chris Letang. I don't know what you think, Mike, but I think Chris Letang has a hell of a lot of value in the NHL. I think he's one of those defensemen that people look at like I am not a Letang fan, so I'm kind of with you, Josh. But I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I think he has value. I think the problem is that he's entering year one of an 8-year contract at making over $7 million. You've got the specter of this health problem, and it can be cured with blood thinners, but you don't know. It's an uncertain situation going forward.
True.
The team, if he's traded somewhere and something, God forbid, catastrophic happens. The salary comes off for long-term injury, but they still have to pay this player. So it's
insurance, though. I mean,
it's a significant financial investment. And the problem is, and as somebody just said in the chat, where I was going to go, he is not like a Shea Weber two-way, good in his own zone and good offensively. He's a one-dimensional defenseman like a Mike Green. And in this league, you do want defensemen who can carry the puck and be offensive, but you also need them to at least be competent in their own zone. And if you ask me, Letang is the Pittsburgh version of Mike Green. He's horrific in his own zone.
Wow, I hate to be the Letang supporter. My gosh, I never would expect you could put me with two other hockey people in the world and have me be the guy who's backing Letang, but I'd say he's better than Mike Green by a lot. And I think that defensively he has the ability to play good defense. And I've seen him play good defense. He tends to be.
He just doesn't.
Doesn't. He's lazy in his own zone. And he also, I mean, the thing that really gets me about Letang is the guy is a diver. I mean, he gets that's more than his play. I think he's a good player, but he's annoying. He's an annoying player to play against because he's the first. He kind of reminds me of, for lack of a better sport, soccer players. Who get hit and then is down he just shot. I mean, but Josh, Letang or Mike Green.
Yeah, they're in the same boat, guys. Both, have had major injury issues the last few years. Neither one of them have played 82 games, I think, in the last 5 years. I don't know which one I'd rather have. I think it's basically pick your poison for which one you want. Yeah, I don't want either of them, but that's just me.
And with that reputation of a diver, maybe Vancouver's the team he's going to go to. That would make perfect sense.
It's crazy Monday here. Mike's taking shots at the Canucks. Josh is saying that it's Mike Green or Letang a toss-up. I'm sorry. Chat room, help me out or somebody. Letang is a better defenseman than Mike Green.
Well,
he just signed a $7 million contract. Mike Green didn't just sign a $7 million contract. I mean,
no.
I think Josh. I was gonna say here's a little shocker for you guys. I think I'd rather have Nikitin at 4 or 5.
Now you should just go to bed, Josh. You should just go home.
Well, I mean, putting them side by side. Mike Green has 1 year left at $6 million, and Letang has 8 more years at 7.25. I mean, obviously, a team out there looking for a puck rushing defenseman, somebody who can fill the gap for a year or two, they'll probably be more willing to take Mike Green than Letang. Letang is an investment, and it's a scary investment in some ways. I mean, one of the things that concerns me, obviously the health concern here, but I heard a report today, going a little off the board here, that Rich Peverly is coming back next year after the situation that happened last year. Yeah. And I mean that's a scary proposition. I don't know, I understand he wants to continue his career, but at some point, when something like that happens, I would wish that the guy would retire so you don't have to see somebody have another incident like that on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, again, these guys are. I mean, my wife works in ultrasound, cardiac ultrasound, and so I'm really familiar with heart stuff around here a lot. But to me, it's just I think that both these guys are, it depends a lot the kind of shape you're in if you can overcome these things, and these guys are really, tuned up athletes. I mean, so that there's a chance of them coming back, and it's like someone put in the chat room, like a 0.001% chance of happening again, which is basically a chance of it happening to anyone. So I don't think that at the end of the day, yes, it's scary, and sure, it could always happen again, but it could happen to anybody, and these guys haven't played their entire lives, to give up on a 0.1% chance. I think that's. I don't think that's what's going to happen. At all. I'm happy. I mean, listen, there were times, even last year, when Letang dominated games that I watched. There were games that I can't remember the last time Mike Green dominated a game. I mean, it's been 4 or 5 years, and yeah, this is why Letang signed the contract, and yeah, the contract is high. But if he is definitely a puck-moving, top-pairing defenseman on a potential Stanley Cup team, so $7 million is not crazy for Letang.
All I can say is this: if it's a contest between Letang and Dion Phaneuf, who is more likely to be traded, or who has the more cap-friendly, or I think it's Phaneuf.
Holy moly! Sorry. All right, now I've really lost my mind again. Josh,
I got breaking news, guys.
Breaking news.
A little bit of breaking news. I don't know if this is out there or not, but I know that Stephen Wino from Canadian Press has just tweeted, told Hockey Canada will announce Bob Nicholson's replacement in the next 24 hours. And apparently Darren Dreger is reporting it'll be Tom Rennie who's taking over for Bob Nicholson.
Tom Rennie.
At Hockey Canada.
Good pick. That's a good selection. That's a really good selection. So, a surprisingly good selection. Josh?
So obviously he leaves the Red Wings as an assistant coach, which would leave another opening in Detroit for an assistant. Obviously they've now lost Peters, and is it just me, or does it seem like every year or two the Red Wings lose their assistants?
Well, this is like if you follow like the Cowboys, in football, there's something about these teams that have this. I mean, they've got a great head coach, right? So the theory is that there's assistants have been under Babcock and are going to bring, a little bit of that magic to your team, right? So that's why people want that gig. I mean, that's why you want to get that job, right?
And Tom
Three of his
Ryan,
assistants.
3 assistants?
Sorry, I was going to say 3 of his assistants are now head coaches in the NHL. Can you name them?
3 of his three former assistants. That's a good one. Good. Think about that. We'll come back to that. That's a trivia question for you. 3 former Detroit assistants, and we'll get the answer at the end. Or if anyone hits it in the chat room, guys, go for it. But 3 former Mike Babcock assistants are now head coaches, and not including Rennie, who's actually going to rumored to be going to run Team Canada. Nicholson, just a little on Nicholson before we get off this topic, though. I like Nicholson a lot. I actually got to meet him. Kevin Allen and I had lunch with him up in Montreal during, I'm going to say it was the draft, when the draft was in Montreal. And I like Nicholson quite a bit. I thought he was really a top, good quality guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. So yeah, good luck with him in the future.
Yeah, and there's a lot of history there with Rennie and Hockey Canada. He coached numerous Team Canada's. I believe he won the Olympics in the early 2000s. I think it was 2004, and World Championships and as such. I mean, he's been with Hockey Canada in different aspects for a long time, so it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now the Letang rumors that were flying around as well, and this weekend, one of the list that went out, one of the teams, that was apparently the Montreal Canadiens that was on Letang's list, and then I did some research into that and found out, sure enough, that there had been discussions as recently as a week ago about Letang and with the Canadiens. So the Penguins in Montreal were trying to work out something with that. This is a really tricky situation, though, because Letang does make $7 million. You're going to have another defenseman who's going to make $10 million in PK Subban. So I just wonder how Montreal can pay that kind of money to 2 defensemen. I asked my sources the same question, and I got, basically saying, well, yeah, we wonder too, but that's what they're trying to do. I wonder if this puts some pressure on PK Subban at all. And that's the next thought that came to my mind. If you're looking at Letang, Mike, do you think this puts pressure on him?
No, I think this is more a safety net for the Canadiens if they think Subban is not going to be amenable to signing a long-term deal. If he goes to arbitration and agrees to a 1 or 2 year deal, I think he has 3 years before he can become an unrestricted free agent. I wrote something about it over the weekend. If he's 3 years away from being a UFA and he goes for the arbitration award and it's a 2 year deal, he's 1 year away from being a UFA. He can either force his way out of Montreal if he wants to, which I'm not sure he does. I think he just wants to be paid what he should be paid. But if he agrees to a short-term deal and that brings him right to the doorstep of unrestricted free agency, then I think Montreal knows they're going to lose him. I think Montreal knows that he is intent on testing the market at the end of the deal. And if they don't want to pay him $10 million, then somebody else will. So if there's any truth to this, and if Letang ends up going to Montreal, I think that's the motivation there, because they may think that they just can't get Subban locked up for 8 years, the 8-year max deal.
Now, Eric in the chat room, who I believe is a woman. Thank you, Erica, for joining. I think you're the first woman we've had in our chat room. We very much appreciate that. Sorry if you're not. Or if you're just using
the chat room.
Adam
Brooke got the correct answer, guys.
Adam Brooke, yeah. But Peters, McLean, and McClellan, yep.
Yep. All 3 under Babcock.
Right. Gallant was never an assistant in Detroit.
Nope.
Was he? Okay, yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, not like an actual assistant coach. So Erica asks, says Letang would be a Gomez-esque acquisition for the Habs.
Yep,
I agree.
Gomez-esque. You agree with this?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't think that's. I think again, that's really short selling Letang.
If he was on a shorter term deal and it was less money, then I think it would be a risk worth taking. But it's a that deal is prohibitive. It's just too much, and it's too long, and with the question marks right now. I mean, the only way that a deal like this makes sense is if Pittsburgh eats money. If they take, say, $2 million off the top and makes them, a 5.25 a year defenseman. If they do that, then I think that they may have some some teams out there that would take a shot. But if they're expecting somebody to take the full 7.25, forget it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that I do agree with that. I mean, there is money that can be taken there. That's for sure. But I still I wouldn't. Gomez-esque is a little bit rough. I mean, Gomez produced nothing. I mean, if you get Letang, he is going to produce. He's gonna produce points. He's going to get points. He's not going to make. He's not going to be a defensive stalwart. Like I've said. I mean, he's not. He's not Paul Coffey bad.
And I think anytime somebody says Gomez-esque when it comes to Montreal, you have to also factor in that they gave up an all-star in Ryan McDonough for him. So it's like, I mean, Gomez playing badly in Montreal was bad enough, but you gave up something of consequence and then had to compliance buy out the guy a couple years later. So it was just a big cluster, for the Canadians.
No, what exactly, Mike? Sorry.
Oh.
Cluster what? A clutterbuck.
There you go.
A clutterbuck. All right. A cow clutterbuck. All right. Other rumors today, come back to Letang, which is later in the show if we want to. But and I'm still still amazed by the whole Letang thing. But I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to say that my two co-hosts are nuts, and I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you.
You got it. No problem. Anytime. I'm here to please. All right, so let's go to
man's nuts. Grab him.
Which is Tyler Myers. Now I last week would have given this like a 20% chance of happening. I thought, Tyler Myers, they're testing the waters. I said as much on the show. I wrote as much, and I said they're never going to trade this. A 6'8" potential, really. I mean, can skate guy. He can skate better than Char could skate at this point. He's got so much potential. But the more people I talked to this weekend, I was amazed, at the people who saw the show and said that I was wrong. That this is actually something the Sabres are looking at and serious about. Mm-hmm. And so that being said, I did as much research as I could to find who exactly had the most interest. And this is what it came down to was, obviously the Red Wings, which we had talked about. The Alfredsson situation is tied to that, and that's for sure the case. The Flyers, very cap ceiling challenged, of course. The Chicago Blackhawks also very cap ceiling. Now that was a surprise to me to hear the Blackhawks could possibly be, involved in this because we talked about they've got to already do things. So if they're making that move, then I'm thinking they're thinking buying out Hossa and trading Sharp or whatever they're going to do to make that move happen, or definitely trading Oduya at least, right, and other moves as well. And then also the Devils and the San Jose Sharks, who the Sharks to me made the most sense in some ways. The Sharks would be a great fit for Tyler Myers. The Devils, this is the kind of player that Lou Lamoriello could get a lot out of. Josh, where do you see it? How do you see this playing out?
I still have a weird feeling that he might end up in Vancouver, guys. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, he's from BC. I think Kelowna. Is he from Kelowna? Anyway, I know he's from BC for a fact. But I see him some reason ending up in Vancouver. I mean, they moved what's his face on the back end out to Tampa. They moved. No, they didn't have Ehrhoff. They moved. What's his? Florida Panthers. They call him Boom Boom's his nickname. Well, at least that's what Jovo called him.
But Jeff.
What's his name? Freak. I can't remember his name.
Oh man, I know what you're talking about too, and I'm just totally.
Oh my God, he signed with, or he got traded to Tampa. He waived. Anyone in the chat room know? Because I'm having a blank right now.
Who is this guy? Because this is me. All right, so we'll come back to that. But
yeah.
So see him in Vancouver. Mike, where are you? How do you see this playing out?
I do.
Well, First of all, I find it hard to believe that they would trade Myers unless they get, obviously a young player, probably locked up long term like he is. He's locked up for, I believe, 5 more years at $5.5 million. The contract was front loaded, like Ehrhoff's deal. So in the last couple of years, he's being paid like $4 million, $3.5 million, things of that nature. If that, that's a very attractive commodity to a team that is a budget team. A team like, say, Phoenix, or a team like Florida, or Nashville, for example, where the cap hit is more than the actual dollars being paid out. Now it does fit into the what the Sabres are trying to do in the short term, because if they trade Myers, then they won't be as good. He's their number one defenseman. I think the plan is that, the focus right now is like 3-4 years down the road, when they have Sam Reinhart, when they have Ristolainen and Zadorov and all these young defensemen, and they have whoever they draft with the 2 top picks next year, all coming of age around the same time, that they would start to be contenders. And at that point, Myers might be a year away or 2 years away from being an unrestricted free agent and leaving. So you can convert him into an asset, and the problem is that the Sabres right now, they need forwards badly. Their forwards, they're really deep. Their organization is deep on the blue line. Up front, they are ghastly, and they're going to lose a number of players this year, like Chris Stewart and Drew Stafford. They're unrestricted free agents. They're probably going to trade them. So could there be like an Evander Kane, Tyler Myers deal, something like that? That would make sense, because both players are locked up and both are the same cap hit.
Yeah, that would make sense. Jason Garrison, Josh, right?
Yeah, and I got a phone call too telling me it was Jason Garrison. But I mean, my point with that was they moved Jason Garrison out. Edler's been rumored to move. Maybe Edler goes to Buffalo in a deal for Myers. Maybe something like that. I know Vancouver's liked Myers before. For some reason, I see him going to Vancouver. I mean, this is a team that kind of needs to start rebuilding their team a little bit, reshaping it. Obviously, the Sedins are there, so they're going to want him, be in the playoffs and make the playoffs. But they want to kind of change the guard up a little bit in Vancouver. Obviously, moving out Garrison and Kessler, and I think Myers would be a perfect fit in Vancouver, guys.
Yeah,
Myers is an Alberta boy. He was born.
Oh, okay.
He was born in Houston, Texas, but his family is from Calgary.
But didn't he live in BC?
Well, he played at Kelowna. He was the defense partner with Luke Shen with the Kelowna Rockets.
It's a good defensive pair for the Kelowna Rockets at that time. I mean, they were quite the dominant pair.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. No, not too shabby. I mean, you take that defensive pair. Yeah, and I know. I mean, I do know the controversy behind Myers. Being I was kind of ticked off that he chose to take the Canadian team as his national team for like people when they have to make their decision whether they're going to be Canadian or American. And in a lot of ways, Myers probably should have taken the American.
Hey, you guys had Brett Hall. It's only fair.
Yeah, eventually, right? We eventually had Brett Hall. You guys had him first, though, so. But yeah, I think that this happened, and this happened. Sean Couturier did the same thing. He was born in Phoenix, and chose the same route.
Yeah.
But you were born in America, Josh. You chose the same route too.
I chose Canada. What the hell? But what about Galchenyuk? Because Galchenyuk also grew up in the States as well.
Yeah, right.
Actually, did Yakupov? I think Yakupov moved to the U.S. as well, didn't he? Or am I missing things?
No, I mean Galchenyuk is American. I mean he's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he does play.
I think Yakupov moved to the U.S. though.
He moved to the U.S., but I know he played a lot. He spent most of his time in Russia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I still don't see the Sabres doing it either. But I'm really amazed at if for no other reason, Tim Murray's playing this the right way in terms of convincing teams that he is actually interested in trading Tyler Myers. That is definitely the feeling out there. And
I think the only way that they trade Tyler Myers is if they get a player who you could put in the realm of being a franchise player, a forward that's a franchise player, because I think that the Sabres organization believes that right now, Ristolainen, who they drafted, in the top 15 in 2013, and and Zadorov, a kid who's playing for the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League, that they hit home runs with them. They're really high on them. Zadorov is a big kid, likes to throw his weight around, and that's one of the criticisms of Tyler Myers. He's big. He's just not tough. I mean, he's not. Yeah. He's more like Willie Huber than he is Zdeno Chara. And if you remember Willie Huber in the day, a big defenseman who wanted to play more offensively than to be a tough defensive defenseman.
It's a great Stratomatic name, Mike. Willie Huber.
Yep.
That reminds me of Stratomatic hockey in a big way. Like a 2-2, D2 somewhere in there.
3-2-3 triple passing, D1-4 intimidation.
And those of you who don't know what Stratomatic is, think Mike and I are now just total geeks. But that's
I'm a nerd.
If you've never played Stratomatic hockey, Josh, were you a Stratomatic hockey guy? Come on now, you had to be. Seriously?
I don't even remember what that is.
Lord. All right.
Maybe if I saw it, I'd know what it is.
Stratomatic hockey board
is it like a bubble hockey thing?
No. It's a board game where every player had his own card. It was a dice game. Yeah. And you roll the dice, and you match your lines. Oh, man, you never played Stratomatic hockey?
Nope.
Yeah. Come on, bud. You got it. We got it. Mike and I will have to get you into that.
Yeah.
When did it come out, though?
Oh, geez.
Late 70s.
Yeah.
Late 70s.
Because not to, make
still out though. It's still out. It's still out.
Not to make you guys feel old or anything, but I was born in '78.
I know. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. I gotta go get my cane. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, Sonny.
I mean, the game I played, Eck, was that game behind you, the baseball game. I played that all the time as a kid.
I know, like this is here. Yeah. I
love
that. Me too. Yeah, I have the hockey version of it too.
There's a hockey version of it?
Absolutely. I'll get it. I'll get it and show you. Now, Josh does point out to us in our little room here that thanks, Flamester thinks Stratomatic was the best game ever. It really was. I have to say, I spent many nights staying up all night playing Stratomatic hockey. I took the Buffalo Sabres to a Stanley Cup in Stratomatic hockey.
Yes.
That means I'm better than any coach the Sabres ever had.
Well, this will be a view into my hockey soul, Ack. I was in a league where my team was the Sabres, and they were the worst team in the league. So I basically decided to throw the season, play guys like Larry Playfair on left wing. Picked up Jimmy Mann, a goon who was like a 1 on defense, and to get the first pick in the draft, which was Steve Yzerman.
Right.
The commissioner of the league kicked me out of the league for throwing the season.
He should have, Mike.
No,
he should have.
It's called tanking. It's strategic.
Commissioner did the right thing.
It's strategic.
Commissioner did the right thing. Oh man. All right, so I will show you that game, and I think what we have to do is tomorrow I'm going to bring out my I'm hearing myself back. I don't know who's on one of you. Either you or Josh or Mike.
I have my
headphones on, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm hearing, maybe it's you, Mike. I don't know, but I'm hearing myself back. I usually don't hear.
Do you still hear it?
Yeah. Hello. Test. 1, 2. I think it's still there. Let me mute you for a second, Mike. I'm going to mute you, okay?
Now we're playing the muting game.
Mike has been muted.
Can you hear yourself now?
Everyone freeze for a second. No one talk. Check. 1, 2. It's definitely Mike. You have to unmute yourself, Mike, but it's definitely you. So.
Sorry, Mike. You've been voted off the island again.
Shock.
No big deal. I'm just the host, so nice. You hear him twice, I guess. All right. So let's move on. A couple other little stories for you guys too. Oh, and then my other rumor I want to discuss today is my other thing from my blog. This is Crazy Monday, and as my co-hosts have shown, this is really wacky. But the other rumor was this. I'm just talking to a couple people nonchalantly this weekend, and they said, "Oh, I don't think Joe Thornton's going to go to Winnipeg." And I'm like, I never thought Joe Thornton would go to Winnipeg. And they said, no, the Winnipeg Jets have been trying to get Joe Thornton to go to Winnipeg. And whoa, So yeah, kind of great. So this is, and I, heard it was still going on. I don't understand it necessarily. I mean, we've heard. Not that I don't understand. I think it's a good fit for the Winnipeg Jets. But at the same time, Josh, do you see this?
I still don't see San Jose moving Joe Thornton. He doesn't want to move. He's got the no trade clause. I think he's staying put. I really believe it's Marleau will be the odd man out. He'll be the guy that'll get moved. And maybe the reason why Jim Rutherford wants to deal Letang is because he wants to bring Marleau into the fold. I've heard before that the Penguins were interested in Marleau.
Definitely.
And obviously by moving James Neal out, they could use another good forward, and I think that's the landing spot for Marleau if the Sharks do end up moving him.
Yeah, I heard that at the draft myself, and I absolutely agree.
That would be one of the few destinations that I think Marleau would waive no move to go to. I mean, the prospect of playing with Sidney Crosby, I mean, that's, I think that's pretty enticing, but I'm still, I mean, Joe Thornton waiving his no move to go to Winnipeg, unfortunately, and my apologies to the fans of Winnipeg, is laughable. There's not a chance in hell. I mean, when you have to plug in your car in the winter to keep it from the battery from freezing,
but I'm gonna stop there for a second. Go ahead, Josh. You first.
More breaking news, guys. I was just talking that opens up a spot in Detroit. As per Darren Dreger, Tony Granato is now the new assistant coach in Detroit, but they're looking for one more because they've now lost Peters and Rennie. But Tony Granato back in the fold as an assistant coach.
Granato's name was in the mix, had been mentioned regarding Toronto's assistant coaches, and now that's one former head coach in Kevin Dineen was hired by the Blackhawks. Josh tweeted that out earlier this morning.
Yeah,
and now Granato and the Leafs hired Peter Horachek, who was the former head coach of the Florida Panthers, on Friday, along with the Marlies head coach Steve Spott. So a lot of former head coaches getting assistant coach jobs in the NHL right now.
Yeah, and Tony's a good coach too. It's another good, and with all the talk that Babcock, this could be his last year in Detroit. You have to wonder. I mean, it's going to be, if you're a Red Wings assistant right now, you might want to take a head coaching job, or you might just want to stick around. I mean, Detroit's the kind of team that would hire from within in a heartbeat, I think, if they like the right guy. And I spent during the Vancouver Boston series, I flew back before Game 7. I flew from Boston to Vancouver next to Don Granato the entire time on the plane. And what a great guy, Don. Don's Tony's brother. Don is also the coach of, in the U.S. Program here. And Don, what a nice guy. I mean, not only a nice guy, but I can tell you what, Don Granato, he was showing me some of the kind of notes he took as a scout and things like that. And it's just the most organized scout I've ever seen. Like, there are a lot of scouts out there that go based on pure guts, but he had a whole iPad program made specifically for how to enter different things, and I was impressed by Don Granato.
Yeah. Well, Tammy Granato too is a pretty good person. I've gotten to know her pretty well.
Yeah, no, it's a hell of a family.
When she went into the Hall of Fame, I had the privilege of meeting her when I brought her in for an autograph signing at AJ Sports World, and got to spend some time with her. And she's a really good person as well. So all those Granatos are all great people.
They really are.
Well, and one of the things regarding Detroit, I mean, obviously the speculation about Babcock next year with his contract being up, they did lock up their AHL head coach Jeff Blashill for a 3-year deal. And there's a lot of consideration that he may be the heir apparent for the Red Wings.
So Red Wings to bring up their AHL coach, though, it definitely. I mean, that is definitely the Red Wings have like the greatest system as far as the way they take their time with players, they bring them up at the right, they really do, and then to actually like groom to coach in the AHL for that. I mean, that's I love when that happens, because those AHL coaches quite often get passed over for guys who, just because they might be sexier, and I don't mean actually physically sexier, but just sexier in terms of their thoughts.
You don't think they look at Bausma guys if Babcock leaves? Wouldn't
No,
that
I
be?
really do think they would look at Bylsma. I do. And that was a lot of people that I talked to believe that's why Bylsma doesn't have a job right now. I'm sure you hear the same thing, Josh.
Yeah.
That's like the
Plus, he's
inside news
collecting
on.
what, $5 million from the Penguins still, or 4 or
Right.
$5
Well,
million?
that helps too, But so why he's not going to take less money, which is
I'll
what
take
he
it.
was going to have to do in Florida. He was going to have to take
I
less money to actually coach the
I
Panthers.
take 2% of that, just for the record, guys. I'd
Yeah,
take
I
2%
think so
of the
too.
4 million. I'd be happy.
I know we'd be perfectly fine. That's all we need. That's all we need to keep this podcast going. 2% of 2% of Bylsman's contract to Josh Rimmer. Come on, make it so, Danny. Yeah. So I know I agree with you. But I do think there was a lot of people who said, Bylsman's going to be picky because there's, Bylsman and Babcock obviously know each other, talk, and you might think that there's a chance that if he sticks around and he's going to be just as hot next year, which is always true, right? So let's take some questions from the chat room before we end today. We didn't get to the Oilers today. There is a reason for that. We're going to talk to the Oilers and the Penguins. We're going to talk a little bit about the Penguins, but I'm trying to get a guest on for tomorrow's show to help us out with that one, and I really think that'll be good. So let's feel free to ask some questions in the chat room. Sorry, my voice is going. We'll go from there. Let's see. I know there's a delay. Okay. Eck, I guess LeCavier at this point stays in Philly? ? Not so sure about that. I wouldn't take that. I will say this. I don't think I heard from a very good source that the Flyers really don't think he's going to be able to play in the system that they're playing this year. So I do think that they're going to try to find a way to move him. That's not really news, but this is from an actual person who really would know this thing. So I still think there's a chance they could get Vinny out of there. So that's my opinion. Let's see, what else do we have? 2% of Orpik's contract. Chris says, yeah, we can take 2% of Orpik's contract.
I'd be happy with that too.
Someone in the chat was asking, is there still interest from Philadelphia in Billy Leno?
Yes, there is. Nothing's done yet, of course, but there definitely is interest. I would say Billy's got surprisingly like 4 or 5 teams. These aren't big contracts, but there are teams that definitely are willing to take a flyer on them, so to speak. No pun intended.
Let me touch on it's Tux fan in the chat was asking, what do you think of the Stamkos stuff that went on over the weekend? And I don't know if you saw Adam Proto from the Hockey News wrote an excellent article regarding players from the Toronto area coming back to Toronto like LeBron is doing with Cleveland. And whether there is a possibility of that, and he posted it, and Stamkos on Twitter favorited the article, which immediately 2 and 2 together, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. It was just nuts. Now, okay, I wrote an article about it on Sunday, and if you look, and we talked about this when Stamkos signed that contract 3 years ago. It was a 5-year deal. He's going to be 26 years old if he becomes an unrestricted free agent at the end of that contract. The last year of the deal, he has a no-move clause. So if he decides he wants to test the market, Tampa Bay can't move him. So they either would have to find out for sure whether they're going to sign him to an extension before next July the 1st, or they risk the possibility of him walking away for nothing. Who knows if it's going to be Toronto? I think Toronto and Pro said this online. Toronto would probably have to pay him max money, meaning I think it's 15% of the salary cap, which right now would be around $11 million. But it with the cap going up, it probably would be more. But Tim Lewicki in Toronto has always been a big game hunter, and if he's still there in a couple years and Stamkos is out there, I don't put it above the Leafs. I'm not saying it's likely. It's probably not. He probably won't even get to free agency, but it's a possibility.
Guys, if he does get to free agency, I'm going to put a little wrinkle in your plans here, Mike. If there is a hockey team in Markham that's where he's going. He's a
Yeah, but
Markham boy.
But there's not.
I think there's a really good chance we'll see another NHL team in Toronto, and it will be in Markham.
I agree with Josh.
They're building the arena right now. A team that I could see moving to Markham is the Florida Panthers. As long as their ownership, if their ownership doesn't continue to stick with this team, they're spending a crap load of money right now, and if they don't succeed, the owners will pull out because anyone who's ever owned the Florida Panthers has lost interest in owning that team. I think that's the team that ends up moving to Markham. I strongly believe there will be a team in Markham in the next 2 to 3 years. Stamkos grew up in Markham. I'm just outside Markham. I could totally see him going to Markham before Toronto.
So Markham your calendars.
Yeah. But the one point that was made, and okay, if there is a franchise in Markham, then I'm sure it is a possibility. But it was the point of Proto's article was the cachet and the legacy that would be built for a player like a John Tavares, a PK Subban, or a Stamkos to come back to Toronto and to get the Maple Leafs a Stanley Cup. If they do that, that player is a deity in Toronto. And if they win with the Markham Waxers, it's nothing. It's like whoever leads the Chicago Cubs to the World Series someday is gonna be a god.
Yeah.
The Chicago White Sox, nobody roots for them except Barack Obama.
Yeah, but I'm gonna disagree with you here, Mike, and I hate doing that, by the way.
Okay.
Anyway, I strongly believe if that team ends up going to Markham, everyone who never saw the Leafs win a Stanley Cup after 1967 is gonna. I think the Leafs are gonna lose a huge fan base because they're gonna get tired of the Leafs and their struggles, and they're gonna move and root for this team. And they're not going to continue to root for the Leafs because they've never seen a cup. But people that have seen the Leafs win a cup, I think their allegiance is going to continue with Toronto. But a guy like Stamkos, I mean, he grew up in the awful years of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Harold Ballard years. So I could see Stamkos wanting to go to Markham and put his stamp on that city.
And what you just said is the reason why I think there won't be a team in Markham, because if they think that there's a team that will come in there and take a significant portion of the $150 million profit that MLS&E, Sportsnet, and TSN makes on the Maple Leafs every year, I mean, I think they'll fight tooth and nail to protect their brand. That's why I think you're going to see Vegas, you're going to see Seattle, you're going to see Portland, you're going to see Quebec City before you see another team in Toronto.
What do you think?
Okay, I think Josh is going to be a Markham season ticket holder. I think that much.
Well, I'm like 10 minutes away.
I know.
Josh and Mark. I'm going to change my Twitter name to Josh and Markham.
That's right. You should. I'm going to hold you to that, Josh. So if they do get a team, you're going to have to do that. We're losing Josh. No, that's
the name of our webcast today. Josh in Markham.
Yeah, that is the name of the show today. Josh and Markham, take your call. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I do think that there will be an NHL team in Markham. I do not think it'll be the Florida Panthers. I think the Panthers will move, perhaps to Quebec. This is
Hubert would love that.
Yeah, I'll tell you who I think is going to move to Markham, and I think it's going to be the Winnipeg Jets. And that's just my theory.
Really?
Not to rip Winnipeg today, because but remember where the owners of the Winnipeg Jets are from. The NHL said they had to have 7 years there, and they're 4 years in. I'm not saying that I want that to happen, because I don't want that to happen at all. I love Winnipeg. I differing. I mean, obviously, I know the whole plug your car and stuff like that, but I love Winnipeg, and I love the team, and I really am a big fan of the whole area, and the fans are amazing. I don't want to lose a team from Winnipeg at all, but I do think that it could happen. I think that's what because the Flyers, the NHL, can never move the Winnipeg Jets back to the United States. That could never happen. You could never have a Jets team go back to the U.S. again, but because that would be just a disaster. But to have a Jets team go to Markham, You know, who's going to complain about that? So there's you know, with the exception of the people who pick.
The rest of the country will hate Toronto even more for filching another team from the provinces. I just think that I think that the next thing on the agenda right now, and Bettman has said this, that there is no agenda right now to expand, but I think it's going to happen probably in a couple years because
there is an agenda to expand right now. They're not talking about it, but there is.
Yeah, but I mean the money is going to go directly into the league's pocket. It's not going to be something that is part of the CBA.
Well, the thing. That's the thing, Mike, and you're right about that. And this is why Balsillie never had a chance. Okay, because people are talking about Balsillie in the chat room. This is why Balsillie never had a chance because he wanted to move them there, and he was buying the Coyotes there, and he bought the Coyotes for what, $200 million or something like that at the time, $250 million. An expansion team in Markham gets the NHL $1 billion.
Right.
Okay. So think about the difference. I mean, so if you're Balsillie, it really wasn't. I mean, as much as they wanted to keep the team in Phoenix, and it wasn't about whether or not you could put a talented team in Waterloo. It was about the fact that that Balsillie was trying to get a hell of a deal to put a team into that area, and that's the NHL owners were like, no, we want that. We want somebody to bid and pay us all $1 billion, and that they'll do that. That'll happen.
And I think the expansion team is the compromise here. I think because an expansion team will not draw as many people away from the Leafs than an existing team is. Than an existing team would. I think they would go in there, they'd get the number one pick, they'd be a slow building process. People would be interested in seeing that team, but it wouldn't be an established team going in there. And in that instance, again, going back to what we were talking about before, Steven Stamkos is not going to go to a team that is starting out. He's already been in that situation with Tampa. The Leafs, if they're gonna make a bid for him in a couple years down the road, they're going to have to be a playoff team that is a player away from being a serious contender. If they're not, he's not going to go there, and he'll just re-up with Tampa and stay there the rest of his career. But I'm just saying that and that's a long way down the road, and many columns written by me theorizing it.
I mean, it's possible. We know Stamkos loves. He actually, even though he grew up in that era, like you talk about, Josh, he still is an admitted Maple Leafs fan. And he's not the first Maple Leafs fan to grow up in that era and still be a Maple Leafs fan. So we've seen this too. I mean, there's a lot of you guys out there. So
and his mentor is Gary Roberts, who late in his career went back to Toronto to try to win with the Leafs, and he that's the guy who is his physical
his workout guru.
Guru. Yeah, exactly.
And I agree there. I do think that people underestimate how much Stamkos likes it in Tampa, though. He really does like it there, and Tampa is a good deal for Stamkos. I mean, it's like he's got a franchise there that he owns basically. He runs the show there. He's got a franchise there that is on is coming up pretty strong. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a very good team. They're going to be an ownership. They're going to be a playoff team this year in all likelihood. And they've got a great coach. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's Tampa and it's a great place to live. I mean,
sure,
it's cheap. You've got the tax situation like we talked about before. I mean, you can have a place on the ocean. It's really not a bad deal.
No,
for I mean, and as much there might come a time, but I don't think it's this next contract. I think if you're talking about like an end of his career type contract, okay, go try to win it. And the other thing that could bring him there would be if the Leafs were very good, and in the next couple of years suddenly were like an actual real contender at the time he comes up as a free agent. So, but that's I do think there'll be a team in Markham, and the issue is this: it really is not about the Maple Leafs. Markham is really not. You know this better than anybody, Josh. But it's that you're there but I've been told obviously that you're not going to steal Maple Leafs fans. I don't think Maple Leaf fans are ever going to stop being Maple Leaf fans. Maybe you disagree with me.
I will say this, Zach. I've talked to a few people here in my area who are diehard Leaf fans, and I've asked them that question: if they put a team in Markham, are you going to remain a Leaf fan? And all of them say the same thing. Well, it depends if they won a cup or not, or if they continue to miss the playoffs. I would switch my allegiance for sure. I'd go and get season tickets in Markham. I know a lot of people.
I think that's easy to say, but I don't think that's true. I think that's easy to say, but at the end of the day, no matter how much your team sucks, no matter how bad they are, it's in your blood. It's like that is your team, and you can also root for Markham.
If this team misses the playoffs the next 2-3 years in a row, I guarantee you they will leave. I mean, for instance, I moved here 13 years ago.
Yep.
I saw the Leafs' success. I became a Leafs fan. But in the last couple of years, I've switched my allegiance to the Blue Jackets because they're a more exciting team to watch. They're not frustrating. Every time I'm watching a Leaf here comes a rant. Every time I watch a Leaf game and they're up by 2-3 goals, I'm like, oh God, here we go. We're gonna lose. Yeah. We're gonna lose. I'm tired of it. I mean, I didn't grow up here in Toronto, but
that's the thing. I'm going to call you out. You're not actually a Leafs fan.
Call me out.
You're not a real Leafs fan because you're a new Leafs fan. You didn't grow up. You grew up a Capitals fan, right? And you grew up
Florida Panthers fan, Capitals fan.
Florida Panthers fan.
I was never a Canadiens fan.
And as someone who lives on the outskirts of Leafs Nation, I mean, and my older brother has been a Leaf fan since the 60s, and I've been a follower of them for a long time. Yeah, I'm not going to switch my allegiance or my interest in that team because there's a team in Markham. They're just another NHL team. They're just closer. It's like, so I think that would be the point of view of a lot of people. But I understand the disenchantment. But and last thing on this, what I think this might be is a solution to the current ownership situation with the Leafs, because you've got two warring factions with Bell Globe Media and Rogers, where they're not really, this is a marriage made in hell. And basically, I think that in the end, what you're going to have is a split of this group, one owning the Markham franchise as an expansion franchise, and the other one owning the Leafs. That's what I think the solution in the end will be.
And that might be a good thing. And that might, I will say this: I think a team in Markham will make the Maple Leafs better. I do think there's the amount of it's a competition thing. It's like when the iPhone was the only phone in town. That was now the Android phones are better. The iPhone's gotten better because of it. You do need having if there's a team in Markham that's succeeding, the pressure is on the Leafs even more, right? Right now, the pressure is not necessarily on the Leafs. They know the Leaf fans aren't going to leave, and I think they trust that they're never going to leave. But at the same time, if there's another team in the area, that definitely puts the pressure on. So yes, I think nothing but good would come from putting a team in Markham. Personally, I think nothing but good would come from putting a team in Quebec, and I think both will happen in the next 10 years. I really do, and I think we'll have, but I think we'll also maybe 5, yeah, and I also think that we'll see a team in Seattle as well. So and I don't think that it's out of the question that we see a team in Portland, Oregon. So there's a lot of options here. I do think we'll see 2 expansion teams, and I think we'll see 2 teams move. I do think we're going to end up with 32 teams, and I think that's going to be the bottom line. And 2 of those will be 2 new teams out west, 2 new teams in the east. So I would say Markham and Quebec, and then I would say I don't think Vegas is ever going to get a team. Because I think that's just too crazy to even for the NHL to pull that off.
So you're saying 2 franchises will move, and then there'll be 2 expansion teams, because we have 30 right now, so it'd be 32.
Right. Yeah,
16 in each.
Yeah. 2 will move. What?
I want to call it Dave Ross in the chat room, who just says who was ripping me for being a Florida Panthers fan. I grew up in Florida, and my dad was the announcer, and I picked up rats on the ice, so I was a Panthers fan. That's why I was a Panthers fan, because he said.
And then there are real Florida Panthers fans out there. You gotta get.
There are.
I hate when people do that. I am no offense, man, but in the chat room there, but you gotta understand that the family of 4 that goes to a Florida Panthers game, the son and the daughter and the dad and the mom wearing their Panthers jerseys are the same as the family of 4 that go to the Wings games. Or go to the Leafs games. It's just that there might not be as many there, but the fans that are there are really serious.
And the only difference,
the only difference is that family of 4 will pay for their tickets, their concessions, their parking, and it won't equal the price of one of the tickets at your Canada Center.
Florida Panthers fans can afford, to go to games. I mean, at Publix, which is the grocery store chain down in Florida, if you buy groceries, you can buy tickets for $1, and people can actually go to a game. I mean, heaven forbid that ever happens here in Toronto. I don't know what I do for tickets for $1. I mean,
You'd rob
that's
the grocery store.
yeah. And they'll get seats. They're lower bowl for $1.
They are, and I mean, listen, that's and that is a supply demand thing. And that's because there aren't as many fans there, and that's for sure. That's definitely for sure. But at the end of the day, there are real fans there. I mean, I've met people, I've met real fans from every franchise in this league, like people who are just as diehard about their team as anyone else is about their team. So even Phoenix, people like, there are real Phoenix fans. Nashville, there's really good fans in Nashville. I mean, this is just it. You have to understand that it's really short-sighted to think that that when these teams that don't have fans, you could say they don't have as many fans for sure because they're new and it takes a while to get into the blood of an area, which is for sure true. But remember, there's a lot of people in Florida that grew up in New York and different areas that were hockey areas too. It's not just about being in the South, But whether the Toronto, other second franchise would succeed, I don't think it's a given that they would blow the doors off. And I mean the best. I remember the one plan. We'll leave on this. The one plan I remember with Balsillie that I liked. And I don't think I ever brought this up with you, Josh. I know Mike and I talked about it before on the podcast way back. Was when Balsillie went to the Leafs and proposed a 35,000 seat stadium, a new arena, 35,000 seats, that would be shared by him and the Leafs with two new franchise, with the new franchise and the Leafs franchise, and Balsillie would build this stadium, so you'd have 35,000 Leaf tickets available for sale, which would make the Leafs by far the richest franchise in the NHL because they would sell 35,000 tickets.
Sure.
But you'd have the other team there too, the Kitchener Waterloos or whatever they would be called, right? That would be, playing in that arena as well and giving away tickets probably for like $5 a piece to fill 35,000 seats. It's not a given that a second team's gonna succeed there. What is a given is that you can sell 100,000 Leaf tickets a game if you want to. So that's the bottom line, And there were times when the Leafs didn't sell out. You have to go way back, but and you look at that, and people are bringing up the Marlies, and people are bringing up the other franchises like the Kitchener franchise or other franchises in the area, in the minors, and they don't always sell out. I mean, it is a Leaf town through and through, right? I mean, Mike, you've been to Marlies games.
Yeah, but the Marlies attendance has climbed significantly in the last couple years because of the affiliation with the Leafs. So I mean, you're seeing a lot of the young players that the organization has drafted over the last few years, and fans are starting to get the idea that we can go see the future players of the Maple Leafs on a Saturday afternoon for $10. And then go back home and watch the Leafs because you can't get Leaf tickets.
Right. Well, that's what we'll see. We'll see for sure. So this was a great show, guys. Today, you see, we can still talk hockey on a Monday in July, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be talking Edmonton and Pittsburgh, and then we will spin the wheel tomorrow for who we talk about the next day. Thanks to everyone in the chat room. Remember, you can follow Josh at Josh Rimmer Hockey on Twitter. You can follow Mike.
Or Josh and Markham.
Or Josh what? Or Josh and Markham.
Josh and Markham.
You better go get that Twitter name right now because someone's going to grab that. Mike, you can follow Mike at Mike in Buffalo. You can follow me at Eklund. And we really appreciate you got your input. We appreciate those of you joining into the chat room, and we appreciate you downloading the show and telling your friends about it too. So thanks so much for watching us. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Talk to you soon.